Welcome back to the collective. It's Yonny Ks. A little bit different episode. I got my pops, Mr. Jason KAISER, on the mic today. I'm gonna give him his life story and ask him a few questions. Say what's up.
What's up? My name is Jason.
27-time year Father of the Year award for sure. It's probably my hero in life. Well, not probably, he is, but yeah, I've been wanting to interview you for a while now, man, and I'm excited to get you on and finally let everybody hear the man you are to me, man.
I don't know if I've ever did a podcast like this.
It's a little different for your first time, but once you actually like get into it a little bit, it just kind of flows, man. So,
all right.
Well, what's up?
Life is good right now.
What about life? Give me some specifics on it.
Well, it's going in the right direction right now.
We're all ears. We're all ears.
So,
Talk right here. Talk right there.
Well, how about we start from the beginning?
Yeah, let's go.
So I grew up in the Bay Area, California, till I was about 12 or 13 years old. We moved to Modesto, California, and my life was changed after that. Before that, we had a broken home. My dad was a Vietnam vet that had a lot of trauma from war. I have vivid memories of my dad being there. Some of those memories are good and some of those memories are bad. But now looking back on that, I can't blame him for some of the choices he made. My mom was a rock star mom, though. She held our family together. And so really, I don't know what it's like to have a full-time father figure be there and tuck you in at night. Like kind of like a Leave It to Beaver story. I never had that. I always had tough love growing up with my family. I knew my mom loved me. My mom and grandma were super spiritual, but I don't remember a father ever tucking me in at night saying, "I love you, son," stuff like that. So we grew up very poor. I wouldn't say poor to where you don't have nowhere to live, but poor and as in you go in the fridge and it's half empty. You just don't get to go out to eat when you want. Going out to eat for us when I was growing up was going and getting cheeseburgers or hamburgers at McDonald's. That was like going out to eat for us because that's all the money we had. My childhood was good and bad. My grandma and grandpa were always there. My grandpa was like my father figure, but he wasn't there 7 days a week like a dad could have been. And then after my mom and dad split up, I think I was probably about 8 years old along in there. I had stepdads that came in and out of my life, but they were worse off than having a dad there. So, one thing I did learn to do out of all that was work hard. I started working at like 10 or 11 years old. And from there, I just knew how to work hard. And sometimes that's really, you have to work hard to get places in life. So,
what do you think was like one of the hardest jobs you've had to do as a kid, do you think?
I think one of the hardest jobs I did as a kid, I told this guy I would move this big old pile of dirt for like $50. Mm-hmm. And it took me like 3 weeks to move that pile of dirt.
Not worth the $50, you think? Maybe a little bit more?
No, because I was like, I had like a pride ego thing when I was growing up, like macho. Like I had to be cool. And I got in way over my head over that. I was like, oh, I can do this in a couple of days. And the guy was just laughing as me walk off. But he had a big old pile of dirt and he wanted it moved to the other side of his yard and flattened out. And it took me forever to do that. He ended up paying me a little extra, but I learned a lot about that, to shut my mouth when someone asked me to go do stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I know that growing up, whenever you would tell me about like working hard or doing a job, you always make sure it's 100% completed to your best ability, and just to ask questions and make sure that you're doing it right. That's one thing I've really taken away from working with you, the little bit that I have. So
my grandpa and my uncle Terry and my uncle Mike, both were really hard. They were all hard workers. And I kind of picked up from my grandpa that working hard and treating people good was like a way of life, because if you always worked hard and did the job, even if it wasn't the best, that there was more jobs to come after all that. And by the time I was 13, everybody wanted me to work for them. I couldn't believe it. It was crazy. So, but with that, my mind was always on working instead of school. So, to go back, my mom worked very hard to support all of us kids. And I remember that I would go and work so we could have new furniture, or I can work on her car. I learned how to work on cars because we drove around in junker cars when I was growing up, because we didn't have money to buy nice cars. When you're a single mom and you have to raise 4 kids that eat a lot, it is pretty crazy.
Yo. Shout out my grandma for real. For real, for real.
She drives really nice cars now, though.
Oh, yeah. She ain't doing no oil changes. She taking them in to go get them looked at. She's balling out in life, that's for sure. I think grandma, is she retired now, or she's close to being retired?
She's retired, but she
works a few days.
Yeah, she works a few days because she enjoys it.
Yeah.
I think.
She's kind of a workaholic, if you think.
Yeah.
From what I've seen. Obviously, she still enjoys her family time, but...
Yeah. It's hard to give up something that you've done for all those years.
Yeah.
To just give it up. So, my grandpa used to come and help us way after he retired. He would come and work with us. He would tie rebar or do little stuff on into his late 70s and early 80s. He would come and do and work for us and just take his time. He always did something to keep moving. The minute he stopped being able to work outside, he didn't last but maybe 2 or 3 years after he was able to go out and work.
Do you think, I have a question that I had written down. Who do you think is like your hero in life that you've tried to not resemble your whole life, but like try to mimic like traits after, I guess, in a sense?
So I would have to say my grandpa and my two uncles. I've tried to,
Just like a mix between all three of them?
yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think I could probably say that I take more after my grandpa, though, because of the things that we did together, as more of like a fatherly figure. So my grandpa, we would work half days on Saturdays. So he had an appliance business when I was super young, probably until I think I was probably 9 years old, 10 years old. By the time I was 10, I was working at his appliance shop. I would tear down appliances, come in. I worked for $2 an hour. $2 an hour, yeah. I would strip down appliances and sweep the shop floor and organize stuff. And then I enjoyed it because on top of that, I got to spend time with my grandpa, and my uncle Terry worked at the shop at that time. And then I would say by the time I was 15 or so, maybe 12, I think, my uncle Terry decided to start flipping houses and being a general contractor. So I would go help him do that, and I would help Grandpa still at the shop. I would do both of those things.
How did you juggle doing both of those and going to school at the same time?
So that's where I kind of wish I would have put more into going to school so I could read, write, and have better vocabulary, I would say, because I always thought about working. I always wanted to work. Like when I was in school, if the teacher asked me, hey, can you fix that desk? I was right on it. But if she asked me to write out a paragraph, I'd be like, what's a paragraph? So I did graduate, but I dropped out of school when I was like 17. I had a hernia really bad, and the doctor told me that I wouldn't be able to play sports for a couple years. And I says, well, if I can't play sports, if I can't wrestle and do that, then I don't want to go to school. So I dropped out and started working all the time. And Grandma's like, this is not going to work, son. You're going to have to get your high school diploma. So she found a program that I went to school once a week, all day for like 7 hours. And I got my high school diploma that way. Yeah.
Do you think that was, if you could have done that all throughout school, it would have been beneficial for you instead of going to school throughout the week and then working on the side like you were? Like, would you have rather done that throughout school like that?
I probably would have. But then you miss out on so much when you don't go to school.
Yeah.
You miss out on all those relationships that you get to build. Being around people and being around in people's lives. You get to build character in people's lives that get to know you.
Yeah. Well, because how many people do you think that you are still in contact with throughout high school, or that you still know of that is doing good in their own lives?
I have one person that is on my Facebook from high school. That's it.
Dang.
Yeah. So, and some of those people I've chose not to contact because of their lifestyle. I don't want that lifestyle in my lifestyle.
Fair enough.
So, when I was 17, I started rebelling and partying really bad. And I started smoking weed all the time. I didn't really drink that much. I would drink occasionally. That wasn't really my thing. And then I had some friends that introduced me to doing some meth. And I always told myself, oh, I'll never do that stuff. That stuff ruins people's lives. And by the time I was 19 years old, I was spiraling out of control, addicted to that stuff bad. It was awful. All because I didn't say no to it when I was in school.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that was the turning point? And obviously, like, you've been a hard worker since I've ever been alive and whatnot. I've only been here for 25 years, but ever since I could remember, you've always just busted ass and trying to make sure that we had better for our lives than you had when you were a kid. Do you think that was like the turning point that, like, if you would have kept going, you would have just lost everything that you had?
So, when I moved from Livermore to Modesto in California, I didn't know anybody. I went to church to youth and I went to church on Sundays, but my friends at school were all people that drank and smoked weed and did drugs and partied. So
it's kind of like living like a double life, if you think.
I did live a double life.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is I didn't ever invite those friends to church like I should have.
Do you think if you invited them, it might have changed up a little bit?
I think I might have. And if I would have maybe told somebody that I was living a double life, my life might have changed. But I think when I moved from Livermore to Modesto, I left all the friends, all the people I grew up with.
The good influences, you would say?
Yes.
Okay.
But also I had bad influences when I left Livermore. But I chose the group. I don't know if it's because I had drama from when I was a kid, and I think it is because I had drama from my stepdads growing up. They was always into drugs or doing bad stuff, and I think I seen that, and something caused me to just go that path.
What was like do you have any father figures other than like or your grandpa and your uncles that you wanted to take good traits after at all, or were they all just kind of not really worth it in a sense?
I had one stepdad, his name was Bob. He was a hard worker, but he was also a bad drug addict.
Okay.
And I don't know. The only trait I'd want to pick up from him was maybe working.
Okay.
But he had his own issues.
Yeah.
And I think when you get your life wrapped up in drugs, that is your life. You live a life of always wanting the next high.
Whether it be drug or meth or heroin or just any substance, you would say?
Yeah, I think when you start, when you're high all the time and it doesn't, you want to be more high.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I was addicted to meth, I like the feeling of having all kinds of energy, and it ruined my life though. If I would have thought about in my 20s, what's it going to do to me when I get older? And we don't think about stuff like that. We think about the pleasure that's in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is going to be cool to do this tonight. I could stay up for 3 days and I'll be just fine. But when you put substance into your body, it trashes your body, it ruins your body, it takes time away from you.
Mm-hmm.
But the amazing thing is God can restore all that back into our lives.
Do you think when like going to the spiritual aspect of it, do you think going to church is the same thing as like reading the Bible at your house or praying at your house? Do you think it falls under the same thing, or do you need to go to church every Sunday to keep faith, do you think?
So you don't go to church to have faith. You go to church because God says not to forsake the assembly, which is not to forsake other Christian people. Because the more good people that you have around you, the better off your life could be.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, for instance, if you were to have nothing but negative people around you every day, that when they got up, they're negative all the time, you're going to follow that eventually.
Yeah,
because that's what's around you.
I agree.
So I grew up going to church. My grandma and my mom were super spiritual, but I don't ever remember growing up where my mom prayed with me or read the Bible with me.
It was just you guys going to church, reading the Bible and praying and whatnot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we build our faith by following Christ. When we have a relationship with Christ is how we build up our faith. We start to trust him in our lives. So when I was 21 years old, from the time I was 17 to 21, I lost everything that I'd been working for all those years. I was living in my truck because I didn't have really nowhere to go because I had burned all those bridges. I wasn't paying my bills like I should have been. I wasn't paying my house.
Was that the lowest point in your life, you think? Being an adult, obviously.
I wouldn't say that was the lowest point because I got myself back together again, got my life back together, but then I fell back again like 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go back and forth. I knew what I was doing wasn't right. And I knew that I shouldn't have been doing that, but I was like stuck. My life was stuck with it. And I would make bad choices and go back to it. I would be good for a while and then I would lose everything again. I'd be down to nothing again. Like nothing. Like spiritually poor, mentally poor. My body would be drained. And taking a toll on my life.
So in that point in your life, what was the turning point, do you think, that you needed to step away from that part of your life to jump into the next phase, into a good, like, surrounding of, like, good people and whatnot?
So I started having kids. Well, by the time Kaya was born, I had seen where my life was going, and I knew I needed to make a change for my kids. Because if I didn't, they were going to grow up in that lifestyle. All right, so I was having a Kaya, and I knew that I needed to change my life. I knew that I couldn't have raise kids with the person I was. I didn't want them growing up around that. living where I was living at. It wasn't, I would say God intervened big time because he knew that I needed to change my life. Or if I would have kept going, my kids would have seen that lifestyle that I was living. So I had to go to jail for a forgery. I think I did like 9 months in jail or something for that. Over something stupid, over $165 or something. Cause I was at the bottom of my lowest in my life. Like I was forging a check just because I was an addict and needed money. And doing bad stuff. I hurt a lot of people along the way. Innocent people were hurt on the stuff I did.
What was Grandma's reaction to all this when you started up until that point of you getting and going away for a little bit?
Grandma.
Like my grandma, your mom, my bad. I guess I should have rephrased that a little bit.
So Grandma Margaret and Grandma K both knew that I was a drug addict, and they would constantly pray, but they always showed love to me. They didn't like the lifestyle I lived. They didn't love it, but they loved me, and they knew that someday I would change my life and have a purpose.
The love for somebody definitely overpowers the love of, or the hate that they don't like that you're doing, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
That's one thing she's always been really good at, is just showing love to everybody, no matter what they're doing in their own lives, because she knows that she loves them more than life itself.
Yeah, I mean, when and your Grandma Kay, my mom went through a lot. When my dad left, my little sister Jessica died at like 18 months old, and it sent my dad spiraling out of control because of Vietnam. He witnessed so much death in Vietnam and then came back, and his life was going great, and then all of a sudden you have a death in your family. I don't think he knew how to handle it, and I think he blamed God for that. For many years he blamed God, like, why do you allow me to go to war, and then why do you allow me to come back, get a family going, and then lose my child? So your grandma was pretty bad for a long time after that. She did some crazy stuff, but Grandma and Grandpa were always there to help pick things back up. Like Grandma Margaret and Grandpa Leo, they were like, they loved you unconditional, no matter what happened. They would help pick the pieces back up and bring things back together. Grandpa and Grandma just had this knack for doing that. And I remember one time I had got in my mom's drawer and I stole some money. And I didn't realize it was rent money. And that night, thankfully I didn't go spend it yet, but that night Grandma goes, we're going to be evicted in a few days because someone got into my money in my drawer, and I don't have enough money for our rent. I think that was the last time I felt so bad over that I told Mom, I was like, I have your money. I'm the one that did it. And that was the last time I ever took from Mom and Grandma like that.
Or just anybody in general, you think?
No, because
or just Grandma and
just Grandma, your grandma,
Yeah.
my mom, because of what I mean. She was crying in the room. She was crying, but also praying like, God, we're going to be evicted. I don't have the money now. And I sensed this through the house. And I went in there and she told me, and then I was like, it was me. I'm the one that did it. I never took money from Grandma again. But
I think she probably had that sense of like, obviously like hurt that you did that, but at the same time you owned up to your mistake to her. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I mean, it was probably like a bittersweet moment for her, I would say, in that.
And then another time I was over at my grandparents' house, and my grandpa used to always carry hundreds and fifties in his wallet. So I decided one day I was going to take $100 bill out of his wallet. Well, stupid me, I put his wallet back in the wrong pocket. Not realizing because he always left his pants in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I think it was a couple of days that went by, and he called me over, and he's like, he asked Grandma if Grandma had been in his pants, and she said no. And he called me over and he goes, Jason, did you get in my wallet? I'm not blaming you for taking anything because I really don't know. But he goes, I want you to be honest. It's okay to be honest. Because if you did get in my wallet, all you have to do is ask, and I'll lend it to you.
Mm.
And I broke down and started crying, and I'm like, yeah, I took $100 bill out of your wallet, and that was the last time I ever took anything from my grandparents.
Mm.
And Grandpa goes, all you had to do is ask me, and I would lend it to you. And he always, if I needed it, he would lend me money. They didn't have a lot of money, but he always helped me when I needed it. And when I got in trouble, when I was like 21, I got in trouble for a grand theft auto of a boat. I was hanging out with this wrong guy, and I borrowed money from Grandpa. I had to put like $5,000 down for a lawyer. And then I was fighting this case, and I got in trouble again. And Grandpa took me aside and he goes, Jason, I can't help you anymore with money if you're going to keep getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I've helped you this last time. And because I needed more money to pay the lawyer.
Yeah.
And I said, I kind of felt bummed about it and mad. But then I look back on that now, like he had to do that to help me learn, you know, what I was doing, that he couldn't bail me out every time.
Mm-hmm. That was like your steps of, I would say, becoming like a man in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is one thing that you take from your grandpa, other than just like hard work, you would say? Like a trait that you carry on that you still think of.
So one of my biggest traits I got from Grandpa is he was always compassionate and loving. He might not have said that I love you, but he showed it with how he was, how he treated you. I don't ever remember my grandpa saying a cuss word or talking bad, filthy or anything like that. My grandpa was always very respectful when he talked. And he was very confident in who he was as a family man. So I remember Grandpa we would go to the races on Saturday night. So we would go to Antioch, California. They always had these dirt wing sprint cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go help him. We would go out and do service calls on Saturday morning for the appliance business. And then we would go home. Grandma would always make us lunch. Lunch would always be ready when we got home. And then we would leave out at a certain time on Saturday, and we would stop by this little grocery store in Antioch. And he would buy us one candy bar apiece and a big old bag of peanuts and one soda, and then we would go to the races. And that's what we did on Saturday nights during the race season.
You think that was like one of your favorite things to do with him, was to go to the races?
I think that was one of my favorite things. As he got older and I got older, we would go fishing. I would go take him fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take him all around the Delta, and we would go fishing. And we would build stuff.
Yeah.
My grandpa always built old cars or old trucks. And I learned how to take interest in building cars. He always wanted to restore them back to original. I always wanted to build hot rods out of them.
Just make it better than the original, obviously.
So he would take like a 1910 or something Model A, and he would totally restore it back to original.
Mm.
And he would work all the metal. One time I remember he couldn't find a fender for the front of this Model A, and he took and he worked that thing for like 3 weeks with a hammer and some metal dollies, and he brought that fender back to life. So back years ago, you couldn't just get on the internet and find parts. You had to go, they had auctions, like car part auctions, like so many times a year, 2 or 3. And we would go to he always knew when they were coming up. And we would go do that on a Saturday and walk all day just to find a couple parts.
Just a few that you guys actually needed. Okay.
Yes.
I know that every time we go back to California, that Uncle Terry's always got something that he's building, a different vehicle or something.
So Uncle Terry, when I grew up around Uncle Terry, we did a lot of woodworking in his garage. Just the opposite of what Grandpa's garage was, or Uncle Mike's. Uncle Mike's garage was, we would build mechanical stuff in his garage, but also do construction stuff. Uncle Terry, we did a lot. We did woodworking in his shop. But as Uncle Terry got older and retired, then he started going back to building old cars again.
Yeah.
Like he used to do with Grandpa when he was a boy. And Grandpa was younger then.
When it came to going and working with Uncle Mike, did Uncle Mike have his own business whenever you were growing up, or was he working for Uncle Terry or Grandpa Leo?
So Uncle Mike had his own construction business. He framed a lot of houses and built houses. And I would go work for him when I wasn't working for Grandpa or Uncle Terry. So Uncle Terry and Uncle Mike kind of clashed a little bit because they had their own construction businesses.
Okay.
But Uncle Mike would build a whole brand new building up, and Uncle Terry would do remodels and flip houses in the Bay Area. And I think they were kind of at odds with each other because they always wanted me to come work with them.
So they're fighting over you guys.
Yes. They would be like, well, I need Jason to come help me. I need Jason to come help me. So I kind of seen that as I was growing up, that, And I think they did a couple jobs together, Uncle Mike and Uncle Terry, and that they were so used to doing it their way that when they did a job together, they kind of butt heads on it.
Okay.
So I don't think they did a lot of jobs together because of that.
Okay.
Was
it just you going to work, or was it you and your brothers, like my uncles, going to work?
So as we got older, Uncle Josh and Uncle Michael would go work, and then when I was way younger, Lisa and Joe would go work for them also when they were younger. So Lisa worked at the appliance shop, like doing all the bookkeeping and doing all that kind of stuff for a lot of years. I was super young though when that happened.
Well, because how much older is Uncle Joe than you?
Uncle Joe is 8 years older than me.
Oh, okay.
And Lisa's only a couple years.
'Cause she was right after Uncle Joe then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, he might be 8 or 10. He might be 10 years older than me. Lisa might be 8
They are
years
kind of
younger.
they are kind of old compared to you, man.
Yeah.
Dang, Uncle Joe's about to hit 60 then.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What was like your relationships like with your siblings, that you could give advice on how I would approach it, or anybody that would approach having siblings?
So because Joe and Lisa were so much older than me, Josh, and Michael, that there was like an age gap between us. So me, Josh, and Michael and Bobby were super close because we lived, we lived all the time together. Like we were super close, all of us. And Joe would come and live back. Joe lived with us in and out. He would come back when I was little. And then by the time I was old enough to really know, he was out on his own. And so was Lisa. Lisa never came back to live. So I think when I was about 13, we were still living in California. We had contact with our dad, and he was living in Alabama. So we decided to go see him. Me, Lisa, and Josh and Michael. We rode the Greyhound bus to Alabama for 3 days
Did Grandma
straight.
know that you guys went and saw him?
Yes,
Okay,
Grandma knew. Grandma allowed it.
Okay.
But we got there and we decided we were going to stay with our dad. And the crazy part is Lisa followed us. She had to put her 2-week notice in, find a job in Alabama, coming from California. This took a few months to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know why we decided to want to do that. It was a life experience that didn't last very long. Because our dad was awesome. But we had a stepmom that was super young. And she wasn't used to having 5 kids there.
Yeah.
In a little 2-bedroom house. And
That is a lot.
Grandpa was Grandpa had a pension from the VA. That wasn't a lot of money because he couldn't really work because he was mentally messed up from Vietnam. And back then, they didn't have help for veterans like they do now. They didn't really know what to do, how to help with PTSD.
Because what that's like in the 80s, you would say? That you're talking about, like after, because Vietnam ended in what year? I'm trying to, I don't remember.
It ended in like the early 70s.
Okay.
So.
Oh yeah, because it would have been like the late 80s, early 90s for this time then, right?
Yes, it would have been. So when I went to Alabama, I think it was in 87. I was there.
Okay.
And we only lasted maybe 10 months.
Yeah.
So, we got to hang out with our dad. I think it really crushed Lisa because, she followed us there, gave up her lifestyle in California, gave up her job, gave up everything she had going there to follow her younger brothers to Alabama. And then 10 months later, so we lived in Jemison and she lived in Birmingham, was like, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes away, half hour.
Mm-hmm.
She had a really good job there. She started her life all over, had an apartment. And all of a sudden, we're going back to California.
Yeah. Did she go back with you guys or did she stay there?
So she stayed there for a while.
Okay.
So I had money saved up in a savings account from working from when I was 10. I probably had $4,000 or $5,000 saved up.
Oh my gosh. And that's a lot of money back then.
That I took out of a savings account that Uncle Terry and Aunt Karen had started for me when I was 10 or so years old. So I would put part of my money away. So I bought us plane tickets. And we came back. And Grandma just met another guy. His name was... Well, we won't say his name.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just leave his name out because I don't want to. Yeah, he was a bad guy.
Okay.
So he was one of those guys that acted like he cared, acted like he was a family man in front of you, but behind the scenes, he just wanted to smoke weed and lay around and do nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he had an accident or something. I don't know, but he got wrecked by an ambulance or something, and he got some money. But so we would go up to this. He had rights to a gold mine claim, and out of Downeyville, out of Auburn, right there in California. So we would go up there during the summers for a week or two at a time and get gold and stuff, but not realizing he would just go up there to party.
While you guys were working.
Why we were goofing off, blowing up rocks and finding gold and doing whatever, kids do.
Yeah.
But what I realized now is they were doing bad drugs, dude. I think they were probably doing coke or something bad, dude.
Yeah.
Because looking back now, it was cool when we left, but I kind of know why they did it now. Went up there. It was a place to go and party. And for us, though, we found gold nuggets and had a cool time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shot guns and did crazy stuff up there. But that lasted, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years. And then we moved from Livermore to Modesto.
Yep.
All of a sudden, we just moved. This is after I got back from Alabama. Just all of a sudden, we moved. And it was like, don't know why we moved. We just all of a sudden moved. And then my Uncle Mike and Aunt Karen had already moved to Houston, California, which was like 10 minutes away from where we moved to Ceres, California. So, but back to when I lived in Alabama with my dad, I think that when we left there, it crushed our dad. Like he had his boys back. He had his family back.
Yeah.
And then we left, and I think it sent him like, I think he resented that.
For a long time, you think?
Well, yeah, he had a lot of resentment of choices he made. Like he held on to that stuff for a long time. He resented God. He didn't go to church. he secluded himself in the woods. Like he would live like 5 or 10 miles out of town.
They just didn't want to be around nobody, pretty much.
No, he wasn't very social with people. So, so we moved back from Alabama to California, and after a while, my sister did move back to California, but we didn't see her that much after that. It was like a part of our lives had changed. As soon as we moved back from Alabama to California, and then from Livermore to Modesto, my sister was older. My sister was already my sister was already old enough to be on her own.
Out of school and whatnot, and start working.
Yeah.
Because I know she has what, 2 boys, right?
Yeah.
They're a little older than me then, right? Or are they around the same age? No, they're like
they're around your age.
Are they in their 30s, do you think? Close to it?
No, they're maybe a little bit older than you and Dylan.
Gotcha, okay.
But my sister Lisa never really... I think it really crushed her.
Yeah.
When we moved her to Alabama and then we moved back. Like, it really crushed her because we were her boys. Like, we were her brothers, but we were like her boys.
She was taking care of you guys as well.
Yeah,
as
like she was
grandma.
like, yeah.
Okay.
Like, she would comb our hairs for, like, dude, she did all kinds of cool stuff for us. You know what I mean? So, she would buy us all matching T-shirts for the 3 of us boys. And she would buy us vans, all kinds of cool stuff. Because she just loved us. And but when we moved from Livermore to Modesto, our life changed. And come to find out, the guy that my mom married, actually, his name was Brian. Brian, that's right. Brian. He was running from something in Livermore.
Oh, okay. See,
So,
I've never even heard this story either. So.
I think that he snitched on somebody or something.
So he was running from somebody, not...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, come to find out. And the only reason why I know this is because later down the road, him and my mom got divorced. She finally got tired of his crap and kicked him out. I would hang out with his brother because his brother was in the drugs. And his brother told me that he was running from somebody in Livermore. So that's why we all of a sudden just upped and moved. Because he had to get out of there.
I'm surprised Grandma went with it, to be honest. Obviously, love will make you do some crazy things, but
Grandma was messed up mentally for a long time because of Jessica dying, my younger sister, and that emotionally wrecks you.
Oh yeah.
And she dealt with that drama. She carried that drama for a long time. So, the same time that she celebrates my birthday, 3 days later was Jessica's birthday.
Oh, okay.
So every time it comes around, I'm here, Jessica's not here.
Yeah.
So it's Grandma's a lot better now. But I remember growing up, Grandma would just be crying all of a sudden in the middle of the night, screaming out, crying. And as a boy, I never understood why until I got older.
Yeah.
But just the last couple years, I've been trying to figure out where my anger comes from. Why am I angry? And I think my anger comes from seeing my stepdads, the way he treated my mom, the way they treated my mom, I carried that with me a lot of years because I couldn't do nothing about it. The stuff that they did behind her back, and then she would take him back. And the one time I did try to do something about it, your grandma almost passed out and had a nervous breakdown because I was going to beat the crap out of Brian one day at the mall. We went out in the parking lot, and I was telling her, like, you got to get rid of him. He's bad. He steals, lies, he does drugs. And I was getting ready. I grabbed him and I was getting ready to throw him to the ground. I look over and Grandma is having a nervous breakdown, falling down in the parking lot. So I had to stop. And so finally, I was, I think I was about 18 or 19. Grandma calls me up. She goes, I want Brian gone. Me and Bobby are going to be leaving, and I need you just to have him leave. So I got the pleasure of going back and making him leave with what she allowed him to have. So she finally, after all those years of probably 10 years, I would say, or more, of him, the lies and the manipulation and the drugs, that she finally had enough. And then from there, she moved to Idaho. So she got a really good job with Pilot.
She's been there ever since, dude.
She got a really good job with Pilot in California. And so she went from doing hair at the mall. She did hair, but it was hurting her hands to do hair all day. Her hands and her feet were worn out from it. But the tips that she got from that brought home milk and stuff we needed at night for food.
Yeah.
Those tips, because we didn't have a lot. You know, I remember Grandpa and Grandma helping out with the rent, pay the rent, and helping out with Christmas. You know, Grandma and Grandpa were always there to help. And then Grandma moved to Idaho. She got a really good job. She moved to Idaho and her life was changed after that. She took a long time to get her life back together. You'd have to talk to her about that, you know. But our life has been different from then. So she left us the house in Modesto, and she goes, I'm moving. You guys can't follow me. You guys can't go with me right now. This is what she told us. I think Josh had went in the military. Josh graduated, went in the military. Michael was graduating, I think. Or maybe
so she got to see Mike graduate at least?
Or no, maybe, I think Michael got his GD or something. I'm not for sure.
Okay.
But she goes, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of California. I got to change my life. I got to do something different with it. So she moved to Idaho. And she goes, I can't take you guys with us. You guys need to grow up. You guys can't keep coming back and living with me every time your guys' lives are messed up or every time you lose everything. You know what I mean? So her doors was always open for us to come back. But she did it for herself, but she also did it for us. So I think I moved to Idaho I moved to Idaho in 2002, I think. Yeah, it was 2002. I finally had enough. with California. Kaya was just born, and it took like 6 months to get my probation transferred, because I just gotten out of jail. I did that 9 months for that forgery.
Mm-hmm.
In between all that, though, I had been in and out of jail a bunch of times for stupid stuff. Dumb stuff. Like dumb stuff that you do when you're out being high and just in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
So, the last time I went to jail, the judge goes, "If I see you back in here again, Mr. Kaiser, you're going to go to prison for 3 to 6 years." So I said, "You'll never see me back in here again."
That was the defining moment, you think?
That was one of the defining moments, yeah.
That just said, I gotta step away from this part of my life right there.
I knew that if I didn't change, and what's crazy is when I got out of jail, I had to go back and live around the people that I partied with all the time and did bad. And I seen the filthiness of the life. I seen the grossness and just the way. And I was like, when you're in that moment, you don't see it. When you're in that moment of doing drugs and your brain and your body's not normal. So you don't see those things that you would see when when your mind is sober. And I had to live and I had to tell myself, I don't want this for my family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this. God, thank you for allowing me to see this, see what my life was about. So, so I got the transfer to Idaho, and Grandma and Grandpa drove with us to Idaho. So I had everything loaded down in the brown truck I call Betsy.
Still got that truck to this day.
Yeah, Grandpa let me have it because he didn't really need it anymore. And he knew I loved that truck. I borrowed it all the time from him anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And I had it for like 2 years before we moved. He goes, "I'm going to let you have the truck." And got a trailer to tow behind it. I stuffed that thing full, put all my tools in the back of the truck, and we drove here. And Grandma and Grandpa stuck by our side to make sure we got here.
I was really young when we came down here, obviously, so I don't know like the magnitude of that instance. So, but I know that Grandma opened up her door to us to stay in there, and then they bought that house, and then we had the trailer shortly after, right?
So when we got here, my mom, your grandma, she had like this trailer that had 3 rooms. It was a single wide mobile home. We had to live with her because of my probation rules that I had to, I had to be there with them for like a year.
Yep.
So when I got here, what's cool is, I had a probation officer here, and she's like, "Jason, I don't know why you've had all these issues." And I never could tell my probation officer, well, I used to do drugs. And the only thing I could tell her was, oh, I just made wrong choices of friends to hang out with. This is why I got in trouble. So I think I was on probation for maybe a year. after I got here and they let me off of probation. But my life was still messed up because I gave up doing meth to started drinking and smoking weed. I didn't drink all the time, but I would drink on the weekends, and I started smoking weed all the time at night and on the weekends. And I should have stopped all that stuff when I moved here. I should have left all that behind. I only left a part of it in California.
What what is one thing that you can take from grandma?
So grandma is all about family. She's all about family, keeping family together. Even through the bad times and the good times, family. You need to have family support around you. Because when you're at your lowest of lows, those family members are there to help pick you up.
I think that's something I really carried from her too, because my favorite like holiday is Thanksgiving, just because everybody's together, or as many people that can come together as they can.
Yeah.
Obviously, like as a kid, you're growing up like, oh, Chris is my favorite because we're getting gifts. But I don't think I was ever really like about Christmas like that, just because I just wanted everybody to be together. So that's one thing I can say I can take from grandma for sure.
You guys never really knew that I grew up poor?
More into my adult years, I've learned that you guys grew up like that, but not as a kid, obviously.
So we didn't grow up like, I would say poor as like love and family, but we grew up poor in other ways. Like not being able to have a brand new set of couches or a brand new car or live in a brand new house.
Mm-hmm.
We always had food on the table. We always had a house to live in. We might have had hand-me-down furniture, garage sale furniture, but there was always love there. It might have been tough love, but it was love.
Mm-hmm. I know that growing up, you were really hard on making sure that we were just trying to be as perfect as we could. Obviously, nobody can be perfect, but being good in our own lives to where we're trying to make everybody else better, or make, like I would try to make Kaya better as a person, or like even now trying to guide my little brother and little sister through life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Think a lot of those, there was a lot of tough love growing up.
Mm-hmm.
A part of me wishes I would have had like a Leave It to Beaver love. You know, you go home, you have a mom and dad there. You know, your dad tucks you in at night,
Mm-hmm.
reads a book to you. You know, you got his shoulder to cry on. I think, part of me always like desired that, but I didn't know how to have that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what it was like to, and I always wonder, like, why isn't my real dad ever around? But as I got older, I have looked and realized because of Vietnam, it ruins people.
Mm-hmm.
Going to war ruins people.
Yeah.
When you have to hurt other people and you don't want to, that ruins you.
There's definitely people that are like, that are born that they have that switch that military is the way that they want to go. And they have like, they're like, okay, if I have to go kill somebody, I will. But then there's those certain people that, did Grandpa get drafted or did he go into the military?
I think Grandpa went in the military so he wouldn't be drafted.
Okay.
Because at that time, he was in 67 and 68. I wish I would have sat down and spent more time with Grandpa before he died. But there was a lot of stuff going on when COVID hit in 2020. I think like a year or two before that, Grandpa came back into our lives, and we got to bring him. I got to bring him to Idaho. Me and Josh and Michael, and Joe and Lisa got to bring him from Washington to Idaho to live out his life in peace. So when he died in peace.
Yeah.
He knew that we had forgiven him for what happened as we were growing up, for him not being there.
He just had like you said, he had peace that, okay, if I have to go now, I have to go now.
Yeah, and he felt guilty. He carried guilt and shame with him for over 20 something years.
That's crazy, dude.
You know, 30 something years. He carried that guilt and shame with him.
He just didn't know how to like bring it up to you guys, or
I just don't know if he knew how. You know, for 20 years we didn't talk to him very much. You know, looking back on that now, I wish I would have reached out to him more.
Do you think that could be one of your biggest regrets in life? Is not trying to have a better relationship with your dad?
I used to have regrets, but I had to let that stuff go. Because I can't carry on that. I can't carry those burdens on with me.
Yeah.
Because if we can't live in the past, we have to live in the future. So we're always walking around with all our regrets, you know, like a UPS truck, dragging it around like a big old fat suitcase with all those issues.
Yeah.
You know, dragging it around, dude. You ain't gonna have no energy to do anything, dude, because you're always dragging around your issues or your regrets. So you got to let that stuff go. You know, for a lot of years I couldn't forgive myself for the way I lived, you know, for over 20 years. And over the last 5 or 6 years, I finally have forgiven myself and have learned to let that stuff go. That, you know, we have to think about that, you know, one day at a time. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but one day at a time. We have to live one day at a time.
It's cool, like seeing the evolution of how you approach being a dad from like me or Dylan or Kaya to Rain and Malachi now. Like seeing the evolution that you are as a father, like it's cool to see. Like I give you crap all the time about being soft, but like you definitely like not 180, but you have different ways of parenting now than you did when I was a kid. And it's cool. It's really cool to see.
So one thing I don't do is I don't yell anymore. Like I did when you guys were younger. Cause I carried a lot of anger with me for years, even though you guys didn't see it, I carried a lot of anger. And that anger would come out at some of the oddest times. And I think like 5 years ago, Hunter was standing on the porch outside the house. I didn't know it. And I slammed the hood on the truck. I was mad for no reason about something. So I slammed the hood and I turned around and he's standing there watching me. And God's like, dude, do you want him slamming your hood or the doors?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want him slamming stuff like that? Look at the example you just made. I didn't think anybody was around. And I acted out in anger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something stupid, dude. Who knows what it was now?
Yeah.
But I remember that now that.
Like you can picture it every day that you just walk outside.
Yeah, but then when I look back, I had some angry moments that you guys seen when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Looking back on that now, like, man, I was a dad, but was my influence, how was my influence like? You know?
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of aggression when I was younger that came out. I was always aggressive where I didn't need to be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
see, growing up, whenever we were in sports, because you were my coach up until like what I probably hit not middle school, like junior high, roughly, probably.
yeah, probably junior high, at the end of junior high.
Like I noticed that, like I always thought it was just tough love the whole time, because you never did favoritism for me, which is something that I really like. I'm really appreciative of it, because you can see now like different parents favor their kid in a sense, you know what I mean? But that was something that you never did for me.
Yeah. There was a time at baseball, we were in the championship game and you slammed your helmet down for striking out.
You weren't even the one that ejected me. It was Sean Sexton that ejected me.
Yeah, but I had to.
You had to make the call though, obviously.
I had to make the call with him and I had to have him do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it. That we weren't going to favoritism our boys.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big commitment we made to each other when we started coaching together.
Mm-hmm.
That, dude, we're not going to put our boys in places that they don't deserve.
Yep.
And we had to make a decision that day to say, hey, no, you got to sit out, dude, because of what you did.
Mm-hmm.
You can't act that way. Even the ump didn't know what was going on. We almost came back. We lost by a point. We took second, dude. I would rather take second that way than knowing that I allowed that to happen.
That I didn't learn from it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because not only did you learn from it, I learned from that. Sean learned from that. And those other boys learned from that.
Mm-hmm.
And so did the other team. They learned from that.
Because everybody knew that you were my dad, but also my head coach.
Yep.
And they're like, okay, he ain't gonna even play around with that.
Yep. Yep.
You know, you always bring up that moment all the time just to flick it to me. You know, that?
It's not for you. It's for me, dude.
Yeah.
It's for me, because I also learned in that. You know, because I wouldn't have been able to coach your sister in softball and all those girls and other baseball stuff the way I did if I wouldn't have made a decision that day.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I think you were way more patient with her than you were with me for coaching.
Well, when you have girls and you're trying to coach girls softball, girls are chatty.
Yeah.
Boys like to cuss at you.
True.
So
True.
Boys aren't super emotional like girls. You get girls emotional, dude, you might as well go walk home, dude. You might as well catch a taxi, bro, because you just spun the whole thing out of control, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's not a bad thing, dude. That's why God made a man and female.
Yeah.
To balance each other out.
Mm-hmm. Who do you think you had more fun coaching? Like me or Kaya? I'm not gonna get mad either way. I'm just curious on like.
I had fun coaching. I had fun coaching everything.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't say.
You could pick your spots more than anything.
No, I can't, because I've had so many good moments of coaching with kids. And just to see the character that's built in all these kids that I had a part in, that I was able to be a part of. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
To be able to look and say, hey, those kids, look where they're at today. They're somebody, because not just me, but other coaches have taken the time to show them that they're worth something. You know?
What would be like one thing that when you were playing sports or just being as a coach, what is one thing that you always hammered down to try to instill into each athlete, or that you got instilled into you, that you tried to bring out in every athlete or every kid that you ever coached, do you think?
I think that you just need to work hard. If you work hard at practice, you're going to play hard. I think I've always had that work hard method since I can remember when. You know what I mean? Work hard, and the rest, if you work hard, everything else is going to fall in line. I tell people today, I tell you guys, if you work hard at your job and don't chase it for money, that the money will fall in line. If you work hard, people notice that.
Yep.
And not just that, God sees how hard we work. I think when I first started helping coaching, I was still coming out of a lot of trauma from my past. There was a lot of stuff I had to get. My whole life was different from when I moved from California to Idaho. My whole life had changed in a matter of a couple years. It went from living a life of drugs and just not having nothing, not having people around me that were awesome or great. They were just like me. They were people that were drug addicts that would rob you blind, dude, and they would be your friend the next day. You know what I mean? That kind of mentality when I moved here. I think, so 1 year, I think it's one of the last times I stopped smoking weed was, we were at practice and you were out there on the field and you're like, hey, I found stuff in my dad's drawer. Do you guys want to know what it was? And I thought you'd found my bag of weed, dude. And you're like, I'm like, oh no, don't say that, dude. Come on. I'm thinking like that because all the other coaches were there. And I'm like, he's going to say he found my weed. And I'm thinking this in my mind. He goes, my dad has Superman underwear. And all I can think was, Lord, I'm going home and I'm going to get rid of that. Because what if you would have found that and said that? Yeah. In front of all those coaches,
no,
dude.
It would have been a bad look
I felt
for you.
so like, it's time to stop this. That was another wake up call. Like, dude, you're doing all this with your kids and you're still living that double life. You know? And what was cool was those guys that I coached with, because I had a background that was not the greatest when you have to fill all that out. And when I went and did that background and everything, they let me coach. And God made a way. God put that past of mine in the past and left it there. But I was thinking if you would have really found that, and those coaches that went to bat for me, they knew I had a bad past, and they knew I had some stuff on my record. They didn't know I was involved with drugs though.
Yeah.
And they knew I had some bad, and they went to bat and they said, no, Jason's a great guy. He's the family guy. He needs to be out here coaching with us.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to bat for me. Those guys mentored me and helped me. It would have been Phil McCluskey and John. I think it was John. What the heck was it? Flipovich was his name.
He's a good dude, man. Both of them are.
Yes, those guys right there, man. They were awesome to coach with.
Mm-hmm. That was when I was playing football, huh?
Yeah, that was when you were playing Optimus. Yep.
As much as we lost when we played that, like, it was cool because, like, you were there, one of my coaches, but like, it was like all the bonds that I've created over like, I still talk to them like whenever I see them out in public, I'll talk to them and say what's up.
Yeah.
And I was like, what, like 8 years old when that happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I'm saying, like, just when I was playing, like, when
the team we had, we got all the kids that needed a lot of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
The other team had all the all-star players on it, dude.
Yeah.
And like, I remember one year we had a kid out there and his dad was a cop.
Mm-hmm.
But the boy didn't belong playing football. He didn't want to be out there. His dad wanted him to play football, not him. So the coaches are like, well, Jason, you get to go tell the dad that your son doesn't want to play football and doesn't want to be out here. You get to be the one to go tell him. I'm like, oh, great.
You're the enforcer.
Great. Every time he sees me, he's going to pull me over or do this or that for telling him, dude, that his dad, that he doesn't want to be playing football.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of went over there and I was like, your son just, because he's like, why isn't my son playing as much? Why isn't my son doing this? And I had to be the one to go over and say, hey, this is not what your son, he wants to do band or do something else. He's not into football. But the mom heard me talk to the dad. And the next year he didn't play football. He was in band. And the kid exceeded in band. Like, he was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had that in the back of my mind. Like, that kid's dad's a cop. He's going to pull me over. He's going to write me a ticket for something, dude, for telling him about his kid like that,
I think that, did anything ever like that ever happen after?
No, nothing ever like that. But
it was just something in the back of your head.
It was something in the back of my mind, dude. It's the same thing still, dude, when a cop gets behind me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to turn and get away. I'm not doing nothing wrong, but because I grew up around that crazy lifestyle for so long, dude, it's still there in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to pull me over for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what's cool about living here is, a lot of the cops know everybody, dude.
Yeah.
I love it here because the cops are great and they keep the riffraff down in this town,
Obviously, it's grown in the last few years since I've moved up to Boise and whatnot. Like, there's a lot more faces I don't know than when I did when I was living here. But it's always been a quiet little town, which has been nice.
Yeah.
I know that that's one of the main reasons why we moved here, too, is you wanted to get away from that lifestyle. I didn't realize that it was because you got transferred here as well from what you had in your past. But you always told me that was one thing, is just to get rid of that, get away from that lifestyle.
Yeah, I wanted to get away because, one of the choices I made to move here was I didn't want you guys to go to the same schools I went to.
Mm-hmm.
Because those kids, when I moved out of there, they had bars around the schools. You couldn't even leave at lunch.
Yeah.
Because of all the gang activity and all the drugs. When I moved from California to here, they said Modesto was the meth capital at that time.
Of California?
Of California, yeah. There was so much meth in that town. that it was crazy.
I know that every time we go back, we drive around a little, like just me and you get in a car and we drive around, and you'll show me like, oh, we used to live right here, we used to live right there. Like you guys lived all over Modesto, huh?
Yeah, because I probably lived, I don't know, probably 10 or so places in
Just in Modesto.
Just in Modesto.
Yeah.
I know when we first moved there when I was a boy, we moved to these apartments, and I always wanted to work on stuff. I didn't have a garage, and Grandma's like, we have to move again. Mm-hmm. We have to. So Grandma always got us a house with a garage. Because I always was building hot rods or working on go-karts or dirt bikes or something.
Yeah.
And she always found a house with a garage for us. And that I had a little storage shed I worked out of. And when we moved to those apartments, and I had my 57 Chevy back then that I would work on in the parking lot of the apartments. I'd tear it apart, put it back together.
Just learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Just over and over again.
But they complained about it, dude. Because you can't have a broken down vehicle. They called it a broken down vehicle, but
then you put it back together. Like, no, it's running.
You know, yeah, because it sat there, dude, being restored.
Yeah.
You know, piece by piece. So, and I worked on the motor in the little shed thing they had, that little roll up door. We paid extra to have a shed.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It was pretty rough when we lived in those apartments, dude. But that's all we could afford, you know?
Yeah.
Anytime we lived anywhere that was apartments, I would build a shed. When we moved from California to Modesto, I had a big old shed I built in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had to have somewhere to work on, build stuff or do something. I mean, you know, I was always working on something. That's just what I did.
Yeah.
Whether it be bicycles or dirt bikes or go-karts, whatever. I was always building something, dude. So,
I remember that green go-kart we had when we moved here. The one where like you found an engine for it and we put it together. Obviously you did most of it, but I remember like us putting it together and figuring it out. And then we drove it around the neighborhood, and then we got in trouble for driving it around.
Yeah. I think everywhere I lived, I put a shed, dude. Even at that mobile home.
I think
I put a shed up there, too.
I think it's still there, too.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, a friend of mine, Rob, knew I needed a garage or something. Because I had all my stuff. I rented a storage shed around the corner. For $25 a month to put all my stuff in.
That one that's just over here?
Yep, the one on Canyon Creek.
Yep.
I rented a storage unit there. $25 a month I paid.
That's crazy.
For that. For like a 10 by 20 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when I moved here, I literally started over.
Mm-hmm. I remember you always told me you brought a nail gun.
Yep.
And an air compressor.
I still have that nail gun from back then.
Mm-hmm. Is that yellow air compressor you gave me, or is that a different one?
No, that's a different one, but I don't have that compressor anymore.
Oh, okay.
I still have that same nail gun though I've had since I was probably like 19.
Does it still work?
Yeah.
Crazy.
What's cool is you can rebuild those nail guns, those touches.
Is that the one that you always were using then when you had your business and whatnot?
Yeah, I always use it because I built my own custom hanger on it to hang off the rafters.
Mm-hmm.
And I built my own custom stuff so I could use it for siding, and it had a little adjustment thing for that, so it wouldn't sink the nails too hard. So I did a lot of cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
when you had your business, what do you think was the hardest part of owning a business?
I think the hardest part of owning the business was I needed to get a bookkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And because I wasn't very smart with reading and writing. Now I could do math like crazy. But I have no idea where to put a period, dude, after a sentence. I have no idea where a comma goes or where a question mark goes, or I don't know the difference between there and there, those words, or two and two. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those, if I didn't have spell check or Office 365, dude, the bids I made up were awful, dude.
Do you think if you had a bookkeeper, you might still have your business today then?
I don't know. That's
a tough one, you think?
It's a tough one because I've had immune disorders that I know of since 2001. And I've probably had it before that I've lived with for all these years. And what I've learned though is stress and alcohol and other substances that you put in your body, they weaken your immune system. They weaken your body. Even like the last time when I got hooked on pain pills, I about killed me. After doing it for 5 years, about kills you. About killed me. I'm a fat guy now, and I was down to like close to 155, 160.
Yeah, you looked like it was
awful.
You looked like a skeleton,
yeah.
dude.
I was on my deathbed.
Yeah.
And it's taken me 4 or 5 years to get my health back. That's why I always tell you guys to take care of your bodies. Don't give up. Don't take the pleasures of today and sacrifice the pleasures of your future. Because that's what you do when you put substances in your body. Is you have a pleasure for that time being, however long that lasts. And then the next day you get up, dude, your issues are still there.
Yeah.
Your problems are still there. But you know what? You don't realize when you're in that, you didn't pay your bills. Or you did somebody dirty, or you lied to somebody, or you did bad things in that time. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So the last couple years, I've been doing this Celebrate Recovery program. It's a 12-step Bible-based, and it deals with hurts, habits, and hang-ups. So, I did this program, I don't know, probably 20 years ago when we first moved here, but I didn't take it that serious. I just did it and left that. You thought I was good, but I wasn't good. I never got to the root of my problems. I never got to the root of why I was angry, why I couldn't communicate with people. I still have communication issues. I'm still learning at almost being 50 years old how to communicate with people. How to sit down and talk without, Audrey, oh, this is going to be bad if we have to sit down and talk. I'm going to lose my cool. I'm going to get mad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those things would come into mind. Like, I don't want to talk to you later. We need to talk.
Yeah.
That's how it was for a long time. Oh, it'll fix itself. No, it didn't. It doesn't fix itself. So the last couple of years, I've been really trying to figure out how to talk and communicate in a different way, without putting things off or blaming someone else for my issues. Taking responsibility for my actions, for my issues. I take full responsibility now for the past things I've done. It's no one's fault but mine.
I've seen your growth from, obviously when I was a kid, like you don't really notice nothing. It's just in the moment. But then like as an adult from 18 to 25, the 7-year gap right there is like you've gone strides and strides and strides of where you were as a man to now as a man. You know what I mean? Like I commend you on that. Like I tell everybody all the time that I know, it's like, dude, I have a hero in my life. You know what I mean? That I can look up to.
You know, and I had to, 6 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, I wasn't that man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had a business, I had a family, I had all that, but I was losing all that. You know, I lost so much. I lost the business. I wanted to say for years, oh, I let it go.
Mm-hmm.
But I lost the business because I didn't communicate right. I didn't do my financial stuff right. I was great at working.
Mm-hmm.
I could go to work and work all day.
Yeah.
But it was all the stuff that has to go along with it.
The extras.
You can't just work. All that wasted energy in my 20s, working and working, 10, 12 hours, say, making all that money and not having nothing.
Mm-hmm.
All that money, I probably could have bought a house or two with all the money I partied away.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get my age, you don't have the energy to go out and pound out 12-hour days and still come home and function.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go pound out a 12-hour day, but I would have to come home and sleep.
Probably the day after too.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful that God has given me another chance to be a better man, to be a better husband, to be a better father.
Mm-hmm. Me and you, we've really butt heads a lot over the years, and I would say it probably finally clicked. Like, dude, he's not trying to be a dickhead to you, or trying to be a bad person. He wants you to succeed in every aspect of your life. I think it probably hit like my senior year. You know what I mean? Like, I remember that Father's Day, whenever me and you got into it in front of everybody in here, and I just walked out the house, and you came after me. You're like, no, dude, like, we're going to do it different. You know what I mean? Like, that was the day I think that, like, me and you kind of saw eye to eye on everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, for a lot of years I was hard on you guys because I didn't, and I tried to control your life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want you guys to follow my path. I think I was so scared of you guys not succeeding and being somebody because of my past that I didn't know how to have that grace with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
To say, hey, it's okay for them to change or do something different than what I want them to do.
Yeah.
And when you graduated, dude, I think I went through, and Kaya graduated, I went through PTSD, I think, because I was so used to going to your guys' games and being a part of that all of a sudden it just stopped.
Just hit you like a Mack truck.
Yeah. And then you guys made different choices after high school that were different than what I thought you guys would do.
Mm-hmm.
And that like rocked me for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to get past that. And I did. Not in a bad way, but a good way.
I know the one thing that I took from you even after was just, as long as you work hard, man, you're gonna do anything you want to do in life. Ever since I turned 8, or ever since I had my first job, I think there's been like maybe a month, 2-3 months of me not working in 7-8 years of being an adult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I've always instilled in my head, just as long as you work hard, you're gonna do whatever you want.
Well, you have to work to make money.
Yep.
Unless unless someone gives you a bunch of money and you manage it right or something. I don't know. But I never had that. I never got to inherit money or inherit, you know. I think what I inherited was hard knocks. Had to go through it and do it myself. And I was always stubborn. I didn't want to listen. I didn't want to save my money. Oh, I can just go work and earn more. You know, if I would have just listened to Grandpa and Uncle Terry and Uncle Mike and Grandma, oh, you need to save your money. Not touch, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I could just spend it. I can make more. But then you get to a certain time in your life and you're like, no, I can't make more money. I can't make more. You know what I mean? So those things you have to realize early, but we don't realize those stuffs in our 20s. We have tons of energy. We're all, you know, people are all over the place, ping pong and this, but I think you have to work hard, but also you have to do family stuff. You know, you come home and you have to be a family person. Not just about you need your space. So you need your own time sometimes. But you got to be into your family. Unless you're by yourself. I mean.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things was when we went to Malachi's tournament a few weeks ago when I went with you guys. Like me and Renee walked up with you and Audrey and Grandma Debbie. And it was cool seeing the perspective that you had this whole time. Because it was always me on the mat. You know what I mean? And then seeing Malachi, it's like, dude, there's nothing I can do in this moment to help him other than you did good or you could have worked on this more. You know what I mean? It brought it to light of like, dang, dude, this is crazy. And then even when me and you went to Middleton for his football game, like there's nothing I can do right now to help you, dude. You have to do it on your own. You know what I mean?
So one thing I've really learned the last couple of years is you can't be afraid to fail.
Yep.
You can't be afraid to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. You have to live your life. So I really look at like a lot of people don't like Elon Musk, but that dude, do you know how many people work for him?
A lot.
Dude, he wants people to come to work 40 hours a week. Okay?
I don't think he really wants people to work a lot of overtime.
No, but he wants you to be there he doesn't want you sitting at home working. He wants you there working, physically at the building working, 40 hours a week. Do you know how many times he's failed at stuff?
A lot.
A lot. But he keeps going after it to better things. You know what I mean? And people look at him like, well, he's just a rich billionaire. Dude, he cares about people.
Yeah.
People are like, well, there's so many jobs created because of him. Because he has the tenacity to say, hey, I'm not going to put up with this crap. It's okay to fail, but keep moving. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because everybody wants stuff handed to them. Like yesterday, it was Thanksgiving, and people were at Albertsons. You should have got your stuff the day before.
Yeah.
People want everything now, dude. Instead of planning out or going with that, you can go a day without something.
Yeah.
Or two. You can go a couple weeks. You know what I mean? But everybody wants something now.
I think that's one of the things that's wrong with society now is they don't know how to sacrifice.
Yes, there's
just
no sacrifice.
One or two things in their life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So sacrifice. I sacrificed. For years, I sacrificed things in the wrong way. For myself, to make myself feel better. But sometimes we need to sacrifice for other people. Especially your family. You need to sacrifice for your family. It's not just you, it's your family. What are you What are you going to leave behind you when you're gone? You know what I mean? Are people going to see you as, oh, he only sacrificed him, for himself? You know what I mean? When I lost the business and this last time I went through, the last addiction I went through, I really had to make a sacrifice to change the person I was. Because if I didn't, I would just go back to the same thing. And it's hard to start over again, to lose everything and start over. You just don't have, the older you get, the energy, you don't have the energy to keep doing that. So I have a good woman beside me, though, with my wife, that's helped me. We've went through some stuff. She's helped me. She's helped me grow up in a good way. I still need to learn how to communicate better, though. And I'm trying to learn the communication thing. It still is like not there sometimes because of all those years of just doing whatever I thought I wanted to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know that whenever you guys first got together, it was an adjustment for me. That's for sure. But she's definitely like, she's another mom to me. You know what I mean? Like, it took a lot for me and her to get like that. But then once it clicked, it was like, okay, all she cares about is that I have enough love. I have enough food. I'm taken care of. And I'm a better person at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It took a lot to get like that for me and her, but it definitely, she's awesome, dude.
And, I wish I would have realized years ago that, I wish I'd have made some of those changes lots, 20 years ago, some of the changes I've made now.
Yeah.
But we can't go back to the past. And we can't keep pulling that stuff back up from the past. We got to send that stuff away in a UPS box with no return label on it. So so you can look at your past and know that, hey, I made that mistake, but do I want to do that again? And to grow forward and not backwards.
What is one thing that you could tell everybody that's listening to this to just think about and let it stir in the back of their head, just to be like something that they can carry with them? Other than working hard, obviously, because we've touched on that a lot.
I think you need to figure out who you are in life, like the person you are. Why do you do things the way you do? Figure that out. You also need to have a purpose. If you don't have a purpose, then you're just living life. You're just getting up, doing the same thing. You need to have a purpose. You need to be okay with things not working out like you planned them to work out with in your life. You have to be okay with that. You have to be able to accept the things you can't change also. But you also have to be willing to put a foot forward and move. You could think about things all day long, but if you don't move and do it, what's the point in it?
You good then?
Yeah, I think I'll be good for right now. I mean, we could do this again. I got a lot of more stuff that we can talk about.
Okay.
We could probably talk for 2 days straight. I just kind of just touched on a few things. There's a lot more to dig out. Like old Joe Dirt says, life's a garden, you got to dig it. I could keep digging up stuff.
I know that I know I appreciate you doing this for me because of like me jumping into this space, but I know the guys that I do this with, when I told them about it, they were all for it. So I know that everybody's going to be appreciative of this episode that we're going to release.
Yeah. And another thing is, if you don't have someone to mentor you in your life, you need to find somebody. Because if you have someone that mentors you, you can also mentor other people. That's why we need people. We need people around us that build us up. That's why God says never to forsake the assembly, because God knows that we need people around us to help us to live and us to also help people.
Well, all right. This has been, I guess, part one of a few whenever the time comes. But I appreciate you, Dad. I love you with all my heart.
I love you too. And
shout out Red, shout out Schlaggy, shout out Seto, shout out Gavpie. This has been the GoldenBoys. Pull it.
Since a youngin', I've been going for it. You want some smoke? I guess you better roll.